Well, it looks like it's finally happening. Ladies and gentlemen, we could be getting Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton finally executed as the feud we would like it to be. Before I get into the weeds of this week's Smackdown and its takeaways, welcome everyone to my channel. My name's Shah. On this channel, you'll find everything to do with the WWE and my thoughts on the current state of the product. I would appreciate any support I can get from you guys. Comment, like, subscribe, all the formalities, please. It will go a long way. I'm trying to grow this channel and essentially do what I love, which is essentially yap about wrestling. And now enough of that, let's get stuck into the video. So this week's SmackDown opens up with the WWE Champion Cody Rhodes, who goes into an instant promo with Paul Heyman, Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker as part of the Vision. And before we can commence, we get the 290-pound behemoth Randy Orton stand side by side with Cody Rhodes to even any potential odds from the Vision. However, instead of any action, we essentially get Paul Heyman tease the conflict between Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, which has been teased for about 2 years now anyway, from creative. They just haven't executed on it. But this was a solid way to start off the show, of course, foreshadowing and promoting the main event later on in the match where Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker go head to head with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. And again, I'll use my favorite word, which I tend to use in all my videos, and that is substance. Luckily here we got substance in the promo, and Paul Heyman's main agenda, his main mission statement here, was really to try and create tension between Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. As halfway through the show, we get a backstage segment where Cody Rhodes goes to Randy Orton and says, hey, look, listen, are we all good? Heyman's not in ahead, X, Y, and Z. Orton, of course, plays off, says we're all good. But towards the end of that segment, we get a full-on voyeurism from Randy Orton on that WWE Championship, which I believe was on Cody Rhodes' shoulder at the time, which is a very nice touch. And I know it's a bit cheap for me to say it's a nice touch because they've been doing this goddamn eyeing up for about 2 years now, even during Cody Rhodes' first title run. However, in a moment I'll get into the main event itself and why I believe the program between Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes is officially going to begin. But in the SmackDown episode, we also had Aleister Black go one-on-one with Sami Zayn for the US Championship as part of the Open Challenge, which initially was answered by Carmelo Hayes, who got taken out by The Miz, and thank God they finally executed on this breakup between the two. I know I've been complaining for the last couple of videos, saying, hey, look, listen, the WWE has a major execution problem. Sometimes they cook for too long, and they just leave it to burn in the oven. And although I would have liked this breakup to be a bit more emphatic, perhaps in the ring, perhaps when Carmelo Hayes was going to close in on an actual victory or a championship, I'm still glad they executed on it here, and I'm curious to see how this unfolds. However, Aleister Black picks up the call and he answers it with a match for the US Championship, which I thought was a tremendous match. I think Aleister Black, honestly speaking, he has every trait you need in a superstar. He has the look, he has a banging entrance theme and overall entrance to go with it. His promos are very unique as well, and they come across as believable. Although he borders on the line of slightly fictional elements, you know, in terms of like ritualistic approaches he takes to his character and promos, it works. It's still grounded. It's not like OTT spooky or unbelievable cringy stuff. And then when you couple it with his in-ring, which I think he's one of the best in the ring right now, and he's one of the most exciting acts, and we've got a stacked roster. We've got a roster with the likes of Penta, Rey Fenix, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, Gunther, Bron Breakker, all these spectacular in-ring talents, just to name a few. And yet I could make a case, an argument, that Aleister Black is potentially more exciting than all of them. Every time I see him on screen, it feels like I'm seeing a cinematic cut of Tekken. Shout out to Tekken, I love it to pieces. I know we're getting a Street Fighter movie soon, and it has Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes in it, but Tekken's always going to be the one. And that martial arts aspect that Aleister Black brings into the ring, accompanied with his technical wrestling, truly makes him the ultimate package in my eyes. And in this week's episode, he did just that. He backed up exactly what I'm saying, and he put on a banger with Sami Zayn. Of course, credit goes to Sami Zayn as well. He's a tremendous in-ring worker. And the WWE did a great job here in making Aleister Black look very strong. So much so where it looked like he was closing in on the win to become the new US champ. And that's when Damian Priest shows up and costs him the match. I think it was the right move. Sami Zayn still needs to run along as US champ, and I think he's doing a tremendous job. Like I said in one of my previous videos, this US Open title challenge is saving Sami Zayn's position and his relationship with the audience. And it's something to look forward to every single week on SmackDown. And typically in circumstances like this, we always have to be slightly conscious that, okay, cool, we're getting Aleister Black, get a title opportunity. But most likely he's not going to go over. We don't want to damage him. What's the best way to preserve both ends? get Damian Priest to return after getting taken out, cost him the match exactly when Black was going to close in, so it makes Black look super strong, and it allows Damian Priest and Aleister Black to continue their feud, which is going to culminate in a last man standing match next week, which I am really looking forward to because both of their styles mesh so well together. The martial arts aspects that I mentioned with Aleister Black, of course, Damian Priest also possesses. And on a side note, I'm really enjoying the little backstage skits with Kit Wilson and Damian Priest. Kit Wilson banging on about the whole sort of toxic masculinity, which is very time sensitive with everything on social media nowadays. It's super entertaining to watch. Kit Wilson is honestly just so good at what he does. And I think Damian Priest feeds off of that so well as well. So these little filler segments in between the showdowns of Damian Priest and Aleister Black work really well. I really want to see Aleister Black pick up the victory next week and conclude this feud. I think this feud's been tremendous and I've really enjoyed it. But the main reason why I want Black to win this is, although he's had history in this company, he was super over in NXT when he moved to the main roster as well. He had a tremendous showing. I feel like, however, since his return, there's been a disconnect in the arena between the live audience and Aleister Black. Of course, online, you've got wrestling fans who absolutely adore him, and rightfully so. But in the arena, there seems to be not that much of an emphatic or a prominent reaction every time Aleister Black shows up on screen, whether it's backstage or live in the arena itself. And although it's been a slow build, I think we're headed in the right direction in terms of booking Aleister Black strongly, and I think a victory here over Damian Priest and concluding this feud so he can move on potentially to something bigger, where I'm being serious here, in the next 18 months, I want him up there, sort of main eventing around the world title picture. I'm not saying he has to win the world title in 18 months, but he needs to start getting within that picture, similar to how LA Knight is. And now I'm going to jump straight to the main event because there is a lot to unpack in this main event on Smackdown itself. The company did a top tier job in this main event. They did a couple of things, more than just one. Firstly, they gave the spotlight to the Bron Brons. I will forever hate saying Bron Brons, but it's convenience, so I'll have to stick with it. So the Bron Brons came out on top, arguably with their biggest victory, taking out 2/3 of Legacy in Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. And this was 1000% the right decision ever since the formation of the Vision, and we've had Bron Breakker and then ultimately Bronson Reed join the pack. My only gripe and critique with the group is, we know Seth Rollins is the definitive head. Paul Heyman has his position as the Oracle. Bron Breakker is going to be a guaranteed future star. Bronson Reed is going to be a key player. I don't see him become world champion, to be honest. But he's going to be a staple in that monster position on the roster for years to come. But where I think the booking was slightly lacking when it comes to the Vision, specifically Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed, was they weren't picking up any dubs. They weren't picking up the Ws. They were taking a few losses. Of course, most recently, they got a victory as well, and now on SmackDown, another one. So this was a great move in keeping the Bron Brons looking very strong. And of course, how they got the victory is Seth Rollins popping in last second and stomping Randy Orton's head into the mat. And on a side note, I know Seth Rollins' whole gimmick for, the last couple of years has been to wear outlandish outfits. But this outfit looked really good, I'll be honest. Like, it was definitely wacky, but I liked it. I liked it. And he was wearing his heels, and he used that very same heel to literally bury Randy Orton's head into the mat. Like I said, giving the Bron Brons the victory. Now, the second thing I want to touch on is post-match. The second and third thing, actually, is all post-match. We had the Bron Brons attempt to go after Cody Rhodes after the match to take him out as well, potentially giving Seth Rollins the upper hand in their champion vs champion match at Crown Jewel. But that's when we saw the layers. That's when we saw a bit more of a build for this exhibition match that we're going to see at Crown Jewel, where Seth Rollins said, I don't need you guys doing that. That's all on me. It feels like Seth Rollins has, of course, this thing to prove because he's 0-3 against Cody Rhodes. Of course, there's been a lot of callbacks I've seen online to when Shawn Michaels back in 2010 felt like he needed to break the streak more than he needed oxygen. Of course, failing the year prior at WrestleMania 25 in that 5-star match against The Undertaker. This definitely has some small callbacks to that. Of course, I feel like it's not on the same magnitude as that. However, I do see the similarities. It adds depth to this exhibition-like match they're going to have at Crown Jewel. And then we got the elephant in the room. This could just be me, but it feels like, again, they're starting to shed light and put a focus on the power struggle between Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins. I always felt like, ever since the Vision was formulated after WrestleMania 41 this year, Paul Heyman's relationship with Seth Rollins didn't feel 100% right. Initially, I thought, okay, perhaps it's just lazy booking, like how Paul Heyman was with Brock Lesnar and, most importantly, with Roman Reigns during the Bloodline. just felt like peanut butter and jelly. Like he felt he had a role. There was synergy between Roman Reigns' decisions and Paul Heyman. But in this group of division, like a lot of things just felt out of place. One of the main ones being Paul Heyman. Of course, they teased it last week as well. Was it Paul Heyman's decision to bring out the Bron last minute? Was it Seth Rollins's? Cody Rhodes was trying to get in Seth Rollins' head about that. And during the ending of the show, you had Paul Heyman's attempt to get through to Seth Rollins to say, hey, look, abort mission. You know, do not get into your own head. Do not let Cody Rhodes in your head and go and take him out. Do not do that. But that's when Seth Rollins' desperation kicked in. He ignores his oracle and he goes to attempt to stomp Cody Rhodes, who, by the way, thank God Cody Rhodes turned this around. Because if this was Seth Rollins running in and stomping Cody Rhodes successfully, I would have giggled a bit, and I am nitpicking. But you had Cody Rhodes literally be in that stance to take the stomp for an extended period of time where Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman were having their little back and forth, trying to get through to each other. But then ultimately we know Cody Rhodes was playing possum and he turned it around and he gave Seth Rollins a crossroads. Great ending to the show. It made the Bron look strong. It developed the story between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. It teased a bit of the disconnect between Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins. And most importantly, I think the closing of this match has added more fuel to the fire. The fire of the said feud I opened this video with, which is Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. And I'll explain why I think this feud is officially happening. And it's not happening in the sense of a one-off match, friend versus friend, see who the better man is, just like it was a Night of Champions. I think they're going to execute on it the way this feud needs to be finally executed on, and that is going down the route of making it personal. Now we know ever since Randy Orton returned a couple of years ago, his booking hasn't necessarily been the best or the most interesting. He hasn't won any championships. He's come up short in a few feuds. Of course, he looks like he's enjoying himself. The crowd love him. Of course, he's a living legend. And sometimes it felt like management didn't know how to correctly book someone like Randy Orton, which is crazy to say because, of course, he's a veteran. But now I'm really starting to think this kind of worked in their favor. The last 2 years or so, I feel like I'm going to be brought into the storyline where it's ultimate frustration from Randy Orton's end, where he's ultimately trying to get to number 15 for the World Championships. And he's either not been involved with the program, or he's had a couple of shots, like for example, like John Cena, or the King of the Ring with Cody Rhodes, which as we know gives the winner an ultimate title opportunity. And throughout this, Randy Orton's been playing the good guy, of course the babyface. And in the grand scheme of things, although it looks like we had a generic tag team match at the end of Smackdown, Seth Rollins stomping Randy Orton's head and ultimately giving Bronson Reed the opportunity to tsunami and pin Randy Orton, I think is going to be included in the frustration of Randy Orton. And this is going to add fuel to the fire, fuel to the feud, ultimately between Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, where Randy Orton can literally turn around and say, for me trying to get involved in your business, back you up, I would not have got my head stomped in, and I would not have taken another L. Because ultimately this is the obsession of Seth Rollins with Cody Rhodes, which has nothing to do with Randy Orton, but Randy Orton was collateral damage. So again, this feeds into Randy Orton feeling like, I need to start listening to those voices in his head and start looking out for myself. And considering the season we're in, I'm starting to get a feeling the feud, although in its infancy, has commenced, because Cody Rhodes has faced John Cena, he's faced Roman Reigns, he's faced Brock Lesnar 2 years ago. He's even faced Drew McIntyre most recently. Really all the big names have been done already, barring your CM Punks and potentially your Gunthers. And of course now he's ticking off Seth Rollins as well. Although it's an exhibition environment, it's still getting ticked off. And that leaves ample time for Cody Rhodes heading into next year's WrestleMania in Las Vegas again, WrestleMania 42, to conclude with the ultimate matchup that we've been clamoring for ever since Cody Rhodes returned in 2022. And that is Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton, specifically for the WWE Championship, because the story, of course, is already there from Legacy days. And adding more stakes to it is Randy Orton potentially getting his 15th world title. And no, I do not want to see this at the Royal Rumble. And no, I do not want to see this at Saturday night's main event, or any other show for that matter. It has to specifically be at WrestleMania. This has the credibility and backing behind it to literally main event night 2 of WrestleMania, and I'll be more than happy. So most certainly the time is now. I feel like the WWE are now executing on it. Hopefully I'm not wrong. Definitely happy for them to continuously take the slow build as we have quite a few months towards WrestleMania. I don't want the turn between them. Obviously, it's most likely going to be Randy Orton to happen straight away. We could probably even push it out to a Royal Rumble season, to be honest. But overall, this show did a tremendous job in making the Bron look strong, building up the match between Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes, and also foreshadowing the problems between the Vision and specifically the head in Seth Rollins, and arguably the biggest feud yet to happen in the background between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. And before I wrap up the video, I want to give a quick shout out to the vignette that we saw of Jacob Fatu backstage. Top work from Jacob Fatu. Whether it's on the microphone or in the ring, Jacob Fatu has the it factor. The only thing I want to touch on is I feel like within the last sort of year, the WWE has really almost nerfed or limited Jacob Fatu's promos to just keeping with his catchphrase around, know what I mean? I'm all gas, no brakes with it, which works and I love it. However, we know that Jacob Fatu has a lot more to offer. He can really go on the microphone as well. And we kind of saw that when he first debuted and he was hyping up Solo Sikoa backstage. He had a couple of instances where he was just accompanied by Tama Tonga, where Solo Sikoa was away. But then fast forward, it felt like he was just a catchphrase machine and he was just sticking to his 2 to 3 catchphrases. But here in this vignette, the promo he delivered was a lot more extensive, and once again we got a taste of how good this man can be on the microphone. I am so badly looking forward to when they execute on Jacob Fatu. He has the complete package. So shout out to that segment, really enjoyed it. And that's it from my end for this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.